To see why USB-C feels like such a breakthrough, you have to think back to the messy days a couple years ago. If you checked your drawer, it looked like a tangled jungle of mismatched cables and confusing ports. Every device or function had its own cable, and none of them worked together. Then the USB, or Universal Serial Bus, arrived and changed everything. It offered the idea of a single connector for all your devices. For a time, it worked. The familiar rectangular USB Type-A became standard, the one everyone recognizes and somehow always plugs in the wrong way first. But as devices became slimmer, that bulky connector stopped making sense. Manufacturers scrambled, introducing mini USB and then micro USB. Meanwhile, printers stuck with the boxy Type B, and external drives adopted an odd dual connector known as micro B. By 2013, the major players in tech, Apple, Intel, Microsoft, and HP, realized something had to change. A year later, in 2014, they introduced USB Type-C. At a glance, it doesn't seem all that different from a smaller micro USB. But internally, it's far more advanced. Older USB cables relied on just 4 pins: power, ground, and 2 for data transfer. USB-C, on the other hand, fits 24 pins into its compact oval shape. But those extra pins do more than make it user-friendly. They enable something called alternate mode. This means a USB-C cable can do far more than just transfer files. It can function as an HDMI connection to output 4K video to a display, handle high-fidelity audio, and, perhaps most importantly, deliver large amounts of power. And that is where the USB-C's real game-changer comes in: its power delivery. Older USB ports were pretty limited, putting out around 2.5 watts, barely enough to charge a phone, and even then, slowly. Trying to power a laptop with one of those cables simply wouldn't work. USB-C flipped that limitation on its head. It can actually communicate with the device it's connected to. The charger effectively asks, how much power do you need? If it's something small like a computer mouse, it delivers just a little. But if it's a powerful computer, modern USB-C can supply up to 240 watts. That's an enormous amount of energy for such a compact connector. This is why many modern laptops no longer rely on those bulky chargers with round plugs. Instead, they use the same USB-C port as your phone. And what really sets USB-C cables apart is its symmetrical design. The pins are duplicated on both sides, so there's no correct orientation. You can plug it in without even looking, and it will automatically recognize the position and adjust the connections electronically. This eliminates the frustrating issue with previous USB-A cables, where plugging them in often took multiple attempts to get the orientation right. But if USB-C is so great, why did Apple with their iPhones avoid it for so long? Interestingly, Apple was actually an early pioneer of USB-C, introducing it on a laptop back in 2015. Yet when it came to iPhones, they held onto their own Lightning connector. The reason was simple: control and profit. By keeping Lightning proprietary, Apple could tightly manage the accessory ecosystem and collect licensing fees. The European Union, however, had a different concern: electronic waste. Every year, about thousands of tons of discarded chargers piled up across Europe, largely because new devices often required new cables. To address this, the EU passed a landmark regulation. By the end of 2024, all portable electronics sold in the region had to adopt USB-C. That move left Apple with little choice. Walking away from the European market wasn't realistic, so with the release of the iPhone 15, Lightning was phased out, and USB-C finally became the common standard. So, is USB-C perfect? Not quite. There's a catch. Not every USB-C cable is created equal. When something is labeled USB-C, it only refers to the shape of the connector. not what's actually inside. Those 24 possible pins aren't always fully wired in every cable, and that makes a big difference. You might grab a cheap cable from the gas station that fits perfectly, but only trickles power or can't handle video at all. If you want the full experience, you need to pay attention to the specs. Look for cables that support up to 240 watts power delivery and high data speeds around 80 gigabits per second. Or keep it simple and stick with cables from trusted brands like Apple, where you know what you're getting. Click the video on your screen right now and I'll explain another everyday mystery you've wondered about your whole life but never thought to look up.